We are here backstage once again with Steve Kennedy from Nestle. You were on stage this morning. We're going to dive into a few big questions as we kick off the year. So thank you so much for being with us.
That's great to be here.
Awesome. So question number one. I talk a lot with our community about talent. Attracting talent, retaining talent, the kinds of people that you look for to build a world-class marketing organization. It really feels like these days there's a new specialty, a new discipline, a new expertise that you have to account for on a daily basis. What is your philosophy and strategy when it comes to making sure you're building the right type of organization and bringing in the right kind of people?
Yeah, look, you have to cultivate those people, right? I think if anybody comes in and they say, I'm an expert in this, that's good through that day. And then the next day that changes, right? So unless you're bringing in people who are continual learners, you're not going to have great talent, right? But you have to cultivate that culture of learning, that culture of optimization, where you bring in the folks that are looking to learn, looking to do better, looking to change things. That's how you grow the talent, right? And so I always look for people who are creative, but who are also analytical, right? So you're trying to find the balance. And then people who are curious, right? I'll channel my inner Ted Lasso a little bit, if you will, but like people who are curious are the folks that are going to be successful because they're always looking for why things are the way they are. They're always looking for ways to make things better. So if you can balance competitiveness and curiosity in anybody, that's the kind of talent I find on our team that succeeds.
And do you think more in terms of specialists, generalists, a mix of both?
You need a mix of both. You know, I think there's folks that are going to go deep into certain areas, and you need that depth. But for me, it's creating an opportunity for meaningful movement around the organization, right? Because if people live in their little space for too long, ultimately that becomes an unrewarding position. You know, there's no growth, right? And growth is really what you're trying to provide for everybody, personal and professional, in their careers.
Absolutely. So let's go the other direction now. So we talked about kind of managing and building and cultivating talent within the marketing organization, but let's talk for a second about managing up. And one of the conversations, again, that I have with more of the senior level folks within our community are around advice and lessons and strategies for conveying to the CMO, the CEO, the board, the power of what you're doing, especially when you're talking about marketing during a pandemic or during uncertain financial economic times. And you're having conversations around marketing as a cost center, as a profit driver, and those conversations to the CEO, to the board become so much more important. How do you convey the power of your work when you're talking to the higher ups?
Data is key, right? You know, it's obviously you've got a story to tell, and then telling it as a story is the most impactful way that you're going to get a message across. But that story needs to be rooted in some data, right? And so you can be a wonderful storyteller, but it's got to be based in some facts, right? And so, you know, the further you go up to the board and so forth, right, decisions are made around what makes money. And you got to have solid data behind why you're doing what you're doing and the decisions you're making, right? But if you can package that data up in a good story to let it land, typically that's how the message gets sent across.
Cultural relevance for brands. Big topic. Maybe more important to some people and to some brands, depending on the category that they're in. But what does cultural relevance mean to you? How do you ensure, if you want to ensure, that the brand has the place within pop culture or within that consumer's mind frame that you're looking for? Is it important to you? If so, what is your philosophy?
Yeah, it's extremely important, and it's not a new thing, right? I think as marketers, we've branded it now. We call it cultural relevance, and it's a big thing. But building brand equity within certain cultures and cohorts and so forth has been around, since marketing, the beginning of marketing, right? And so it's extremely important, and a lot of our brands they have certain target markets that we try to be relevant within a culture, so things like Hot Pockets as an example, right, is a very relevant brand for younger male consumers, right? We play a lot in gaming and things like that, and so finding ways to be relevant and meeting those consumers where they're at versus working specifically through like linear TV where those consumers don't live and so forth. We've got a lot of global brands that work that are very beloved with like Hispanic consumers as an example. And you have to be relevant to them, right? You can't just take your ads and dub them in Spanish and drop them out. Like that's not how it gets done, right? You have to earn the right to be in part of their culture, to be, and for us to be on their table at their homes, and for them to, we talk about brand equity and the idea that like, oh, would you recommend, an NPS score, would you recommend this brand to somebody? There's no better recommendation than actually serving the food to somebody else, right? I can recommend a restaurant to you. If it ends up being bad, I have some plausible denial. I'd be like, oh, it was okay when I went, right? But like, I don't know what happened when you, if I serve it to you, that is as much of an endorsement as you're going to get. And so earning that relevance, earning that equity within those cultures is imperative.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Now we're going to go more lightning round style. Right. Trend watching. It's part of every marketer's job. There's always a million buzzwords and trends and hot topics. Is there one that's maybe particularly important to you or that you have your eye on as far as planning for the year, thinking about your opportunities this year? What trends are you looking at?
I mean, industry trends are just the fragmentation of everything, right? Everybody, the consumers are fragmenting to millions of different channels, networks are fragmenting and so forth. And so it's how do you navigate this new fragmented marketplace that we're set to negotiate. And if you've got to divide up dollars and so forth to play in that fragmented landscape, you've got to be really intelligent about it. So it's managing that fragmented landscape with the right analytics and data to make sure you're making the right decisions.
I mean, maybe you just answered this, but on the flip side, are there any industry challenges as far as things the entire marketing industry is thinking about right now, grappling with what challenges are our industry, really facing right now?
Yeah, I mean, that fragmentation is obviously part of it. Then you've got obviously the privacy and the data component that comes with it, right? So walls are going up from some certain gardens and they're coming down in other places, and the government's going to step in with privacy laws and so forth. And so staying ahead of all of that is going to require a new level of agility.
Metaverse. Yes or no? Why or why not?
Yes, but, or yes and. Yes, at some point, yes, right? It's just a matter of when. It depends on the brands, depends on the engagement, depends on what you're trying to create. Don't go into it right now thinking you're going to turn around an ROI just like you would on some paid media channel, right? It's about creating a different channel to engage with consumers. And so you always want to meet consumers where they're at. And the more they get there, the more consumers that flow there, the more it's going to make sense for different brands. But yes, it will be. Yes now for some brands, yes for more as it goes.
Last question, same idea, AI and artificial intelligence. It's been a term thrown around for a while now, but certainly seems to be peaking as new developments in machine learning and AI, come to the forefront. Where do you see these technologies playing and artificial intelligence playing for marketers?
Yeah, it's going to have a huge impact. It's going to have a huge impact from anything from content creation to, content moderation, right? If you play with ChatGPT and just have some conversations, it's creepy the levels at which things can get done now. It is going to have a huge impact, already is having a huge impact in the content space. It'll have a huge impact on talent, right? And understanding, getting the right talent in that knows how to leverage the tools for that decision making, the automation of decision making as well. It'll play a huge role in all of it. So it is not just a buzzword, right? We've burned through a lot of buzzwords in this industry. It is real, and it will transform not only our industry and marketing, but it is going to transform everything at some point. So learn how to control the robots, because they're going to be that's going to become part of the job.
All right, thank you so much, Steve. This
Appreciate
is great.
The time.
Love having you. Brand Innovators Backstage interviews here in Las Vegas during our Marketing Leadership Summit.
Always glad to be here.